You ever looked into a woman's eyes and felt that something deep down had changed? But she swore nothing was wrong. That strange distance you can't name. That emotional shift you can't explain. It's not your imagination. It's the quiet storm before betrayal. And if you've ever been blindsided by a woman you loved, today you'll understand why. I'm going to show you 5 emotional habits that secretly expose a cheating woman psychologically, emotionally, and energetically. Once you see them, you can't unsee them. Before we dive deep, if you care about truth, about understanding the female mind instead of just reacting to it, then pause right now, hit that subscribe button, and like this video because what I'm about to reveal, most men never get the chance to hear. Now let's begin. A woman doesn't wake up one morning and decide to cheat. It starts emotionally. Her connection to you begins to fade, not because of what you did, but because of what's happening inside her. When a woman emotionally detaches, her body, her tone, her words, they all shift in ways that psychology can explain, but only experience can truly feel. The first emotional habit that gives her away is her micro-withdrawal. This isn't full-on distance, it's subtle. She laughs a little less. She shares fewer details. Her affection becomes polite instead of passionate. And when you try to talk to her, she listens, but her eyes don't. You can feel that her emotional investment has moved somewhere else. It's not always physical yet, but emotionally, she's halfway out the door. Psychologists call this the emotional transfer phase. It's when a woman's subconscious starts bonding elsewhere. She won't admit it, even to herself, but her energy changes frequency. She becomes easily irritated, especially by your normal behavior. The things that once made her smile now make her sigh. And here's the hardest truth. When a woman begins to cheat, she doesn't just betray you, she starts rewriting her own story about you. She tells herself you're distant, controlling, or inattentive, even if you've done nothing wrong. That's how she justifies what she's already emotionally begun. You'll notice it most in her empathy. A loving woman feels your emotions deeply, but a woman who's emotionally checked out suddenly stops caring how her behavior makes you feel. It's not coldness, it's guilt turning into emotional numbness. When you sense that emptiness, don't ignore it. It's not in your head. It's the first whisper of betrayal. The second emotional habit that secretly exposes a cheating woman is something most men completely overlook: unprovoked defensiveness. When a woman starts cheating, even emotionally, she begins living in 2 realities, one with you and one she's trying to hide. That double life creates guilt, and guilt always needs a disguise. The disguise is anger. She'll suddenly start defending herself before you even accuse her of anything. You might ask a simple question like, "Where were you?" or "Why didn't you reply last night?" And she reacts like you've just attacked her. Her voice sharpens. Her tone shifts from warmth to irritation. You'll notice that she doesn't just answer your question. She over-explains with unnecessary details that sound rehearsed. That's the nervous energy of someone protecting a lie. Now, psychologically speaking, this defensiveness isn't really about you. It's about her internal conflict. She's projecting the judgment she feels inside onto you. In other words, she's not mad because you asked. She's mad because she asked herself that same question in the mirror and she didn't like the answer. You'll also see her start to use reverse accusations, turning the focus onto you. She'll say things like, "You don't trust me," or "Why are you being so insecure?" This tactic shifts the emotional balance. Instead of confronting her actions, you start questioning your own sanity. That's exactly what she wants, because if you're too busy defending yourself, you won't notice the walls she's quietly building between you. Another red flag inside this habit, she becomes hypersensitive about her. Privacy. The phone that used to lie face up is now flipped over. She'll take it with her everywhere, to the kitchen, to the bathroom, even when she sleeps. If you so much as glance at it, she'll accuse you of invading her space. But deep down, she's guarding secrets she hasn't admitted out loud. And here's the painful truth. When love turns into suspicion, communication becomes a battlefield. You start watching your words, afraid of setting her off. That's when she wins control of the emotional space because your silence lets her deception breathe. Men, understand this. Genuine love welcomes honesty, but deceit demands defense. If she's always on edge, always building invisible walls, That's not tension. That's the shadow of betrayal standing quietly between you. The third emotional habit that exposes a cheating woman is emotional unpredictability. Sudden shifts in mood, affection, and attention that make you feel like you're dating two completely different women. One moment, she's warm, playful, affectionate. The next, she's distant, irritated, or ice cold. You can't find a pattern because there isn't one. What you're actually witnessing is a psychological tug-of-war between guilt and desire. When a woman cheats, even emotionally, her nervous system becomes conflicted. Her brain is releasing dopamine, the pleasure chemical, from the thrill of the new connection, while also releasing cortisol, the stress hormone from guilt and fear of being caught. This creates erratic emotional waves. One day, she'll love you intensely, trying to convince herself she's still loyal. The next, she'll act like you're a stranger she can barely tolerate. You'll notice these emotional spikes around moments of intimacy. If she's cheating, physical closeness becomes complicated. Sometimes she'll pull you in more than ever because she's subconsciously trying to hide her guilt. Other times she'll withdraw completely, avoiding touch, eye contact, and affection because it triggers shame. Both reactions come from the same internal storm, and here's where most men go wrong. They start chasing her emotional validation. When she becomes distant, you try harder, buying gifts, being extra kind, asking what's wrong. But that only deepens her withdrawal. Why? Because now she feels control. The more you chase her, the more she subconsciously resents you. Not because of what you've done, but because she knows she's the one betraying you, and your kindness reminds her of her guilt. A cheating woman often hides her guilt behind emotional chaos. She'll pick fights out of nowhere. She'll accuse you of things that make no sense. She's trying to create emotional distance, so when the truth comes out, she can tell herself the relationship was already broken. It's her way of rewriting the narrative before she's exposed. So when you see her swinging between affection and coldness, understand this. It's not random. It's a reflection of two realities colliding inside her. One where she's the loyal partner she used to be, and one where she's betraying that version of herself. That emotional instability is not confusion, it's confession. You're just not hearing it in words, you're feeling it in her silence. The fourth emotional habit that secretly exposes a cheating woman is emotional detachment disguised as independence. At first, it looks healthy. She'll say things like, "I just need some space," or "I'm focusing on myself right now." She'll talk about setting boundaries, personal growth, and self-care. But underneath those noble words lies a deeper truth. She's emotionally relocating. She's building a new world that doesn't include you at the center anymore. Psychologically, this habit serves one purpose: to reduce guilt. When a woman cheats, her mind can't handle the dissonance of betraying someone she still lives with, laughs with, and eats dinner beside. So she starts to separate herself emotionally first. That way, when the betrayal becomes physical or fully emotional, she can tell herself, "We were already drifting apart. It's not coldness, it's emotional preparation." You'll notice she begins doing things alone that you used to do together, watching shows separately, going out with friends more often, becoming oddly private about her schedule. She frames it as independence, but what's really happening is withdrawal. Emotional intimacy is being replaced with autonomy, not because she's growing, but because she's hiding. You might also feel her subtle rejection of emotional vulnerability. Conversations that used to go deep about love, fears, dreams now feel surface level or rushed. When you try to connect, she'll say things like, "You're overthinking," or "Can't we just enjoy the moment?" That's her avoiding emotional accountability. The more detached she becomes, the less she has to confront the reality of what she's doing. And here's the hardest part. She'll look peaceful. You'll see her smiling more, humming songs, or dressing up differently. You might even think maybe she's just in a good place, but inside, she's not calm. She's rehearsing a new identity, one where she's no longer yours. That inner shift creates an eerie calm, a quietness that's not peace but distance. Psychologists call this emotional migration. It's when a person mentally moves out before they physically do. That's why when the truth finally comes out, men often say, "It felt like she left months ago," because she did, just not in a way you could see. So when she starts celebrating freedom, that excludes you. Pay attention. Love doesn't need space to breathe. Lies do. Her new independence might not be growth. It might be goodbye disguised as self-love. The fifth emotional habit that secretly exposes a cheating woman is inconsistent empathy, a psychological glitch that appears when her heart is divided between guilt and denial. You'll notice it in the small, quiet moments. When you're stressed or upset, she used to comfort you, listen, maybe even cry with you. Now her empathy feels forced. She'll say the right words, but her tone is hollow. Her eyes don't carry warmth anymore. It's as if she's performing care instead of feeling it. This happens because when a woman cheats, her emotional energy gets redirected. The emotional bandwidth she used to spend understanding you is now invested somewhere else. Her compassion becomes selective. She's still capable of empathy, but only when it serves her image. For example, she might show affection in public, but privately she's detached. Or she'll comfort a friend's problems with genuine emotion, but respond to yours like it's a chore. That's not fatigue. That's emotional redistribution. Here's something most men never realize. A woman's empathy is tied directly to her loyalty. When she's emotionally invested, she feels everything you feel. But once she's split her connection, she numbs herself toward you to survive her own guilt. Her subconscious tells her, if I stop caring so much, it'll hurt less when this ends. That's how she protects her double life. Watch how she reacts when you're vulnerable. If you express sadness, pain, or confusion, and she rolls her eyes, changes the subject, or gives surface-level comfort, that's not exhaustion. That's a heart that's quietly turned away. Genuine love wants to understand. Betrayal wants to escape. And sometimes her sudden kindness is another form of guilt management. She might cook your favorite meal, compliment you unexpectedly, or get nostalgic about old times. Don't mistake that for reconnection. It's her subconscious trying to balance the emotional scales to make herself feel like a good person despite the lie she's living. Inconsistent empathy is the emotional fingerprint of betrayal. One day, she seems distant. The next day, she's overly attentive. It's not confusion, it's compensation. She's trying to prove to herself that she still cares, even though her actions say otherwise. If you're feeling emotionally starved in a relationship that once felt alive, and she acts like your pain is inconvenient, you're not crazy. You're just witnessing the silent decay of emotional fidelity. That's how the truth always begins, not with a confession, but with a cold shoulder. Here's the final emotional habit, and it's the one most men ignore until it's too late. Rewriting the relationship narrative. When a woman starts cheating, she doesn't just lie to you, she starts lying to herself. To silence her guilt, she begins mentally rewriting your shared history, transforming moments of love into memories of disappointment. You'll hear her say things like, "We've been unhappy for a long time," or "You were never really there for me." But if you look back honestly, you'll realize that's not how it was. That's her way of justifying the betrayal she's already committed. This is psychological self-preservation. No woman wants to see herself as the villain. So she crafts a new version of the story, one where you're cold, inattentive, or emotionally unavailable, and she's simply a woman who fell out of love. In reality, she's creating emotional distance so she can live with the choices she's made. It's not truth, it's narrative manipulation. You'll see this habit unfold in her language. She stops using we and starts saying I. "We need to fix this" turns into "I need to find myself." That linguistic shift is powerful. It marks her psychological separation from the relationship. She's no longer speaking as a partner, but as an individual preparing for life without you. She'll also start emphasizing your flaws while downplaying her own. Tiny arguments become evidence in her mental courtroom. Every disagreement, every missed text, every bad day, she's collecting emotional ammunition to defend her actions later. And when you try to remind her of the good times, she'll dismiss them as fake or in the past. That's her way of closing the emotional chapter before you even realize the book is ending. But here's where your power lies: awareness. Once you understand this pattern, you stop begging for explanations that will never make sense. You stop chasing closure from someone rewriting reality to protect their ego. Instead, you begin reclaiming your emotional clarity. You realize her cheating isn't proof of your inadequacy. It's proof of her inability to face discomfort with honesty. So if you recognize these 5 habits, micro-withdrawal, defensiveness, emotional chaos, detached independence, inconsistent empathy, and narrative rewriting, understand that you're not crazy and you're not alone. You're just seeing truth before it's spoken. And maybe that's your sign not to chase her, not to fix her, but to finally protect your own peace. Because once you can read a woman's emotional habits, you're no longer being fooled by her.